Satan. I am your god now.
South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is considered by many to be one of the best big screen adaptations of an animated television series ever created. From memorable musical numbers, hilariously quotable lines, and very sharp satire, the film's also considered by many to be the turning point of the series and the moment the show really started to hit its stride. So let's take a look at the characters' actions from this little mountain town when they're brought to the silver screen. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut characters good to evil. Just so we're clear, we're ranking the characters on this list based on their actions within the film, and won't be talking about their actions in the TV show. With that out of the way, as usual, we'll be starting with the most pure and noble character, and working our way down to the most evil. The gold medal of good, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is awarded to Kenny. Prior to this film, Kenny was mostly defined by four things: his muffled speech, many deaths, crude sense of humor, and elaborate knowledge of sexual terminology. While all of those traits are on display in the movie, this also marks the first time Kenny displayed his heroism, which has been a defining part of his character ever since. After lighting himself on fire via a fart, Kenny dies and is sent to hell, where he has to deal with Satan and Saddam Hussein. While initially scared of the duo, Kenny starts to sympathize with Satan, and gives him advice upon realizing how Saddam is using the Dark Lord to take over Earth. So that's right, Kenny is so good-hearted that he'll comfort the Lord of all evil, which we think is saying a lot. When Satan finally stands up to Saddam at the end of the film, he grants Kenny one wish. Instead of wishing to be brought back to life, Kenny makes the selfless decision to erase all the damage caused by the horrible war between the US and Canada. Granted, Kenny probably knew he was eventually going to come back to life anyway, since he always does. But regardless, he could have wished for something else selfish and materialistic, so we still consider this an incredibly noble act. This is the moment beyond any other that really solidifies Kenny's gold medal on our countdown. We're giving the silver medal of good to Brian Boitano. South Park has parodied many celebrities throughout the years, but by far the one who has been portrayed the most positively is Olympic skater Brian Boitano. This was actually technically the first celebrity to ever appear in South Park, being the voice of reason in the original Spirit of Christmas short film. Whenever the kids lose their way in this film, they ask, in song, what would Brian Boitano do, which inspires them to start La Resistance.
Yeah, what would Brian Boitano do?
During said musical number, we find out that he apparently saved maidens from grizzly bears using his magical fire breath, and traveled through time to save the human race from an evil robot king. The bronze medal of good is going to Stan. Stan, Kyle, and Cartman are tasked with standing up to their mothers to save Terrence and Phillip from being executed. Out of the three, Stan is usually the one to take charge, with Kyle being afraid of his mom and Cartman being lazy and selfish. Granted, a large part of this is due to Stan wanting to impress Wendy, and he does get way too preoccupied with this goal sometimes. Regardless, Stan does genuinely believe in his cause and wants to save his two favorite comedians from an untimely death. He has always kind of been the leader of the group, and here he takes on that role more seriously than he has ever before.
Wait, I've got an idea.
Stan also knows how to raise morale of those around him, such as when he encourages Kyle to stand up to his mother, or when he volunteers to put himself in danger by distracting the crowd at the USO show. Next, we have Kyle. Much like Stan, Kyle is one of the driving forces behind La Resistance, who are working to save Terrence and Phillip from being executed. While this is certainly a noble goal, Kyle takes charge in this situation a lot less than Stan does. This is partially because Stan is trying to impress Wendy, but also because Kyle is too afraid to stand up to his own mom.
Mom, can I talk to you for a second?
To be fair, Kyle's fear is incredibly justified considering his mom started a war with Canada and almost got everyone killed over curse words in an R-rated movie. Even so, Kyle fights for what he believes is right and even learns to stand up to Sheila when Terrence and Phillip are about to be murdered. Much like in the show, Kyle demonstrates a great deal of integrity, even though his more emotional side makes him quicker to anger than, say, Stan or Kenny. Mr. Mackey takes the next spot, okay? Much like the rest of the adults in South Park, Mr. Mackey dedicates himself to teaching the children to not use foul language. The difference in this case is that Mr. Mackey doesn't resort to violence, murder, or war to accomplish this task. Instead, he teaches the kids a lesson through an upbeat song which the students really enjoy. Granted, this doesn't work as the kids go back to watch the Terrence and Phillip movie immediately after the song finishes.
Say, I'm very disappointed in you boys, okay?
But I suppose it's the thought that counts. Mr. Mackey is actually consistently one of the more admirable authority figures in South Park, and his role in the movie is no exception. Moving on to Chef. Being one of the more promiscuous and also outspoken adults in South Park, Chef is less concerned with censoring language than many other residents of the quiet mountain town.
Hello there, children!
Nevertheless, Chef does get drafted into the war against the Canadians, where he is assigned to a very racist human shield unit. When it comes time for the final battle, it's revealed that Chef taught the other members of this battalion safety measures to ensure he and them wouldn't be killed. This makes Chef a war hero of sorts, possibly more so than anyone else involved in the battle. That said, we are docking Chef some points for, once again, giving Stan some very inappropriate advice on what he should be looking for an 8-year-old boy. Moving on to Wendy. While not exactly the most proactive character in the film, Wendy definitely lands on the side of good for sticking up for freedom of speech and fighting against censorship, even though Wendy had been firmly established as Stan's girlfriend on the TV show at this point. The movie seems to imply that they are not together yet.
What? You started La Resistance?
So she spends a lot of time with Gregory and seems to admire him for his strong political beliefs and proactive nature. Despite this, she does get annoyed later due to Gregory's condescending attitude towards Stan, and eventually reveals that she never really cared for him. If Wendy had played a more proactive role in the film's story rather than rallying behind either Stan or Gregory, she would probably rank higher. Farting their way into our next spot, we have Terrence and Phillip. The popular comedy duo from Canada are known for their crude and explicit humor, which entertains many but ruffles the feathers of others, being the representation of South Park within the show's universe. Terrence and Phillip are rude, immature, and vulgar, but to be fair, they are really just looking to make people laugh.
Excuse me, Terrence.
Yes, Philip?
After the duo are unfairly targeted and taken prisoner by the Mothers Against Canada, Terrence and Phillip never beg for mercy or bow down to those trying to take away their freedom of speech. We won't act like two guys farting on each other are going to win any Nobel Peace Prizes, but their goal of making people laugh regardless of whatever life-threatening obstacles they face is quite admirable. Rounding out our good section, we have Gregory, one of the few original characters in this film to not appear in the TV show. Gregory is a British transfer student who attends Mr. Garrison's class and spends a lot of his time courting Wendy. A highly intelligent and proficient child, Gregory is the one who comes up with the plan to rescue Terrence and Phillip from being executed at the USO show. Even though he doesn't partake in a lot of foul language like the other kids, he still believes in standing up against censorship and stopping the war that is breaking out. All of this is admirable, but the reason Gregory lands at the bottom of the good section is due to his incredibly condescending attitude. He considers everyone else around him to be uncivilized, and whenever Stan fails to rescue Terrence and Phillip, Gregory remarks that he shouldn't have sent a boy to do a man's job.
I see you failed in your mission. I should not have sent a boy to do a man's job.
His efficiency and willingness to devise a plan to save Terrence and Phillip land him in the good category, even if his personality makes him come across as unlikable on a personal level. Now that we've covered the good section, let's dive into the gray area. These are characters whose morality shifts between good and evil. Digging his way to the top of the gray area is Kristoff, better known under his alias, the Mole. When Stan, Kyle, and Cartman plan to infiltrate the USO show, they enlist the help of a kid known as the Mole at the behest of Gregory. While an efficient infiltrator who helps out La Resistance, the Mole is also defined by his incredibly cynical attitude and hatred towards God, who he blames for all of his problems.
Said very naughty things about God.
He has a tendency to be quite aggressive towards the boys, all of whom point out how noticeably unstable he is. Still, we have to say he lands much closer to the good side than the bad. Ruling over our next spot is the Prince of Darkness himself, Satan, one of the most surprisingly sympathetic characters in the film. Satan initially appears to be incredibly evil as he plots to take over the world upon the deaths of Terrence and Phillip. While this is far from a respectable goal, the film eventually reveals that Satan really just wants to live on Earth instead of being damned for all eternity, which is much more understandable.
What's it like up on Earth, Saddam? Tell me about it again.
Most of his evil acts in this film are under the influence of Saddam Hussein, who is much more malicious than Satan himself. With the help of Kenny, Satan learns to stick up for himself specifically against Saddam Hussein, and even reverts the world back to normal to prevent the effects of the war from occurring. We still have to put him in the gray area due to Satan's initial plans for world conquest, but at the end of the day, he is truly a character of balance. Rounding out the gray area is a character usually reserved for the evil section, that being Cartman. While Cartman is as rude, selfish, bigoted, and vindictive as he's always been, he does partake in some heroic actions throughout the course of the film. This is most prominent during the film's climax, wherein he fights Saddam Hussein with the electricity that comes from the malfunctioning V-chip in his head. He joins La Resistance to save Terrence and Phillip, both to protect his favorite comedians and to remove the V-chip from his head. While all the kids are particularly vulgar in this movie, Cartman naturally has the dirtiest mouth, creating an entire song dedicated to disparaging Kyle's mom. Cartman was also the first to reveal that they learned this language from the Terrence and Phillip movie, thus causing the mothers in South Park to declare war on Canada. With our gray area wrapped up, we now get to the dark side. These characters are the bad and the evil. The bronze medal of evil is going to Sheila. By far the most reactionary mom in South Park, Sheila is the driving force of Mothers Against Canada, an organization she formed upon realizing that her son learned curse words from watching Terrence and Phillip. As the film progresses, she goes from bad to much worse, declaring war on Canada and capturing Terrence and Phillip in order to execute them.
Terrence and Phillip, those Canadians?
Sheila has the tendency to blame everyone else but herself for her problems, which escalates to disastrous results. Near the end of the film, she even shoots both Terrence and Phillip in the head herself, allowing Satan and Saddam Hussein to be released from the underworld. Needless to say, we fully understand why Kyle appears to be so afraid of his mom, and he's right in saying that she won't listen to anyone but herself. The only reason Sheila doesn't rank any lower is because she does have a revelation at the end of the movie, where she learns the error of her ways, so we can say she is somewhat reformed. Even so, if it wasn't for Kenny's selfless wish, Sheila would have brought a heap of irreversible destruction, the likes which the world had never seen before. The Silver Medal of Evil is awarded to General Plimpkin. Sheila may have been the one to declare war on Canada, but the general is the one who planned out the attack in detail. Not only were his methods of attack quite ruthless, but he's even willing to sacrifice his own men as human shields. All done in the most racist way imaginable.
You are Operation Get Behind the Darkies!
On top of his overt racism, the general is also unnecessarily violent at times, best demonstrated when he shoots Bill Gates in the head, for his computer being too slow. We're also not entirely sure if he learned a lesson in the end like Sheila did, which is why we have to give him the Silver Medal of Evil. But real quick, before we get to our last entry, make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our other South Park videos. Finally, the Gold Medal of Evil easily has to go to Saddam Hussein. While Saddam Hussein is definitely one of the funniest and most memorable characters portrayed in South Park history, he also ranks among one of the most disgusting and most evil, largely due to his portrayal in this film. After being killed by a pack of wild boars, Saddam ends up in hell where he starts a relationship with Satan himself, while he claims to love the big red demon. It is very clear to Kenny and eventually Satan that Saddam is mostly using him for sex, and to also become the ruler of the earth once Satan travels to the surface. While Saddam doesn't directly murder anyone himself throughout the movie, he does plan on enslaving the entire human race through the use of Satan, which is actually far worse. Saddam Hussein is evil, mentally unstable, and violent, making him an easy pick for the Gold Medal of Evil. With our morality spectrum complete, let's wrap things up by awarding some Sinner medals. The Pride Medal has to go to Gregory, for his huge ego and need to talk down to everyone. The Wrath Medal easily goes to Sheila. I mean, she started a war with Canada over bad words in a movie. The Gluttony Medal goes to Cartman for not sharing any of his movie theater snacks. We're gonna give the Sloth Medal to Satan because he really makes no attempt to better his situation with Saddam until Kenny shows up to help him. Stan takes the Lust Medal for his prioritizing of getting a girl to like him, while the whole town is in the middle of a literal battle and Satan is trying to take over the world. We'll also give him the Envy Medal for how envious he is of Gregory's connection with Wendy. The Greed Medal goes to Saddam for wanting to take over the world and control everyone in it. And finally, the Darwin Award is going to the Doctor, who replaced Kenny's heart with a baked potato.